yeah, 1973 was important for me, not just because of it being the first tour I saw on TV, but also up to that point I would describe myself as more of a football fan. But because of that tour and because of what led up to it, including watching John play a league cricket every Sunday,
yes.
That led me into becoming a football and cricket fan equally. And can I just say this? I think one of the reasons why cricket is a sport which has lost a lot of connection with a lot of young people in this country is because you can't watch it on terrestrial television. Now, if it wasn't for free-to-air TV or the BBC in the 70s, I don't think I would have got into cricket in the same way. You could just casually turn it on and casually watch it. I don't want to get into a debate of ownership and rights and television companies, but that was important for me, and I think that's relevant today when we talk about cricket.
We could just put it on, and yeah, I mean, you're right.
It was just fun, and you could watch it every single Sunday live at John Player League, and that's how I got into watching some of the West Indian players, because you could watch them every weekend.
What about the connection with the West Indies in particular? You know, given your background, was it a link, a family link, if you like?
Yes, it was very important, and I'd like to say that there's been a lot of attention focused on the great teams under Lloyd and Richards in the 70s and 80s, but I think we have to look at what happened before that, and I'm very, very keen to point that out. In the book, there's a historical perspective as well, because you can't deny the importance of, say, 1950, when the West Indies won their first Test match at Lord's. And this year is the 70th anniversary of that special occasion. And, of course, one of the batsmen in that team was Everton Weekes, who played a key role in that win with a lot of the other players. And that needs to be recognised. The 60s, the West Indies came here in 63, 66 and 69. I'm not writing this down. I'm not reading from a script. I know this off the back of my hand. And the thing is, those tours were crucial in linking cricket and what it meant to the Caribbean community in this country throughout the whole of the 60s, whether the West Indies won in 63 and 69 or lost, in 63 and 66 or lost in 69. So, yeah, it was a strong connection. And also for people who came from the Caribbean, it was a link to home. It was a symbol of pride, of recognition. And also it was a recreational venue. When you're working hard, trying to establish yourself in the country, and there's not much else you can do in terms of social activities, you might not be able to go to a pub or a club or whatever because of racial barriers, you could go to Lord's, Trent Bridge, Edgbaston, Headingley, and wherever, and at the Oval, of course, and celebrate the West Indies coming to England and make that connection. It was a day out as well as a
wonderful atmosphere too, wasn't it? I mean, the West Indian supporters at that time. Look, I've got a note here. Just remind me, because I remember this happening, and I can't remember the absolute detail, but it involved our old friend Geoffrey Boycott and umpire Fagg. Dear old Arthur, who refused. Something happened, and Arthur Fagg, the umpire, refused to take the field. So they had to get Alan Oakman in, didn't they? I think it was at Edgbaston. Yeah. Alan Oakman, who was the Warwickshire second 11 coach or something, was on the ground. Yeah. So he had to go out to square leg while somebody somewhere placated Mr. Fagg.
Yeah, I don't want to give too much away, but I have written about that in great detail in the second test at Edgbaston in 1973, where the other umpire was Dickie Bird, and I interviewed Dickie for the book. And you have to remember that 73 was Dickie's first international year of Test cricket. So, and that gets a mention in the book as well. And yes, what happened was that Keith Boyce was bowling. Geoffrey, I call him Geoffrey as if he's a friend of mine. I don't know why I said that. Geoffrey Boycott may or may not have edged it to the wicketkeeper Derek Murray.
Oh, it's one of those. Oh.
I'm just saying. I'm just being extremely diplomatic. And and the appeal went up. It was turned down. One or two of the West Indian players may not have been happy with that.
Right.
And then Arthur Fagg refused to come out the next day, but eventually did. Dickie Bird describes this in great detail in the book, and I spoke to Ron Headley, who was standing at square leg next to Dickie Bird when that incident took place. I also spoke to Dennis Amos, who was at the other end when that happened, and he had his, let's say, view on it. But yeah,
Well, it's obviously nonsense because Geoffrey Boycott always walked. I mean, it's obviously, I'm in Geoffrey's camp on this one. Obviously, he always walked.
It happens in cricket, doesn't it? There's always contention around edges, particularly in the age when there weren't cameras at every single angle possible. But having said that, the other incident involving Geoffrey Boycott was during the tour, and this tour was packed with incident. It had bomb scares, controversy with umpires, yeah, exactly. And you remember Geoffrey Boycott was out hooking Keith Boyce,
yes, in the last over of the day,
and
Alvin
Calagiran told me about what happened. He saw the ball in the sky, and then he looked around. He saw like 100 West Indians chasing after the ball, that was quite an interesting story. And then unfortunately, Geoffrey Boycott got some close attention from one or two West Indian fans who invaded the pitch, which was a little unsavoury. But that's what I remember about that series. There were invasions after invasions after invasions, people running on the pitch, not in a malicious way, but in a way of sharing the joy of watching the game. But it wasn't just.
I'd agree with that, Colin. Don't think it's so sad that's gone. I mean, I played in the '84 series, and the clanking of the cans and the whistles and just the Caribbean feel of it, and we've lost it. We've lost it here anyway.
Yeah, but I think I can understand why in the age that we're in now, security has to be taken seriously, and you can't have supporters on the pitch getting near to players. And I get all that. I do get all that. And also, a lot of these invasions were carried out by not just West Indian fans. There were young English boys on the pitch as well. I mean,
everyone ran on.
Well, this is it.
It seems crazy now when you see it.
Yeah, exactly. When I watched the highlights of the '84 Test at Lords, and I remember I was there sitting on the grass, casually. Yeah. And if I felt like it, I could just run over the boundary and field the ball, if I felt like it. But the thing is,
tell us about Gary Sobers quickly.
Yes,
Colin, because the umpires are coming out. So he didn't start that series.
Well, no, he was. He was picked only for the Test matches, but he played in all 3 Test matches, and then in the last Test match was at Lords when he scored that memorable century, which Dickie Bird said was one of the best innings he'd ever seen. But 73 isn't just about cricket. 1973 and me, it's not just about cricket. It's autobiographical. It's about growing up in England at that time and the struggles of the Caribbean community. And also there are other things in it. There's stuff about CARICOM, the Common Market, which both started in 73, Cliff Richard's attempt to win the Eurovision Song Contest, Leeds United losing to Sunderland in the most epic, dramatic and surprising defeat in FA Cup final history. So yeah, there's all sorts in there: politics, autobiography, struggles, fun, comedy, seriousness, drama, and also lots of cricketers helped me out and came forward to talk to me, including Keith Fletcher, Lance Gibbs, Maurice Foster, and Ron Headley. I've got to give a shout to Ron Headley because he played 2 tests in that series, and he's been overlooked a little because of the obviously the legend of his father George and his son Dean, who played Test cricket.
Yeah.
So
Colin, I've got to let you go. Thank you so much for bringing back and rekindling lovely memories for me too. And I've introduced Alistair Cook to Keith Boyce.
Thank you. ColinBabb.com if you want to find out more. Colin Babb also.
Go well, Colin. Thank you, Rush, indeed. Sneaking in a bit of a mention there. No problem at all. There we go. And thanks, Rush, indeed, to Colin Babb. And 1973 and Me is the title of that book. And I wonder how many of you, like me and Colin, have fond memories of that year when he's right. We used to sit down and watch the telly. And kids at that time, you could watch the whole Test match.